right, go back in time. You're 2 years old, you're 3 years old, one of the two. You just learned how to do some basic things in life, such as like walk and talk and all of those things. But your dad is king and your dad dies, which means you are the heir to the throne, meaning you become king or queen of the country. But you're 2 years old. Are you effectively going to be able to run a country? Probably not. You're not even eating, maybe not even eating a lot of solid foods yet. I don't know. I'm not good with baby stuff, so I don't know the timelines for things. All I know is a 2 year old or a 3 year old cannot run the United States of America. So basically, you have to have someone do the job for you until you're old enough to be able to handle that job. Well, that's what happens in Japan. We have a young empress who is just a baby and obviously cannot run the Empire of Japan, so Prince Shotoku, her nephew, does that for her. And so our aim today is that students will be able to explain the early changes or reforms of Prince Shotoku and the leaders that followed. Our normal agenda goes do now notes, guided practice, independent practice. And then today just happens to be National Chili Day. I know chili's typically good on a really cold day, but it's not that cold out. But I'll go for chili any day, so I will probably eat some chili today. But let's go ahead and get started with the do now. All right, we have 3 questions based off of Tuesday's lesson because yesterday you did some extra reading on geography. So your first question is which of the following best describes the physical geography of Japan? The second question is which type of natural disaster is common in Japan? Be careful on this one. A lot of people get stuck on that one. And then 4, I took out question 3 because it's not relevant to us. Which method did the Yamato most rely on to build their empire? So go ahead and pause and you just need to write the letter. Some of you guys have been writing out the whole answer, which is fine, but save your fingers some time and some extra work and just put the letter, which I would do anyway. So go ahead and pause and answer these 3 do now questions. All right, so for number 1, which of the following best describes the geography of Japan? Well, if you remember yesterday from our lesson, we had a key word, and one of these just happens to be one of our definitions. So which one of these words was a definition? Right, C, archipelago. So even if you weren't sure of the answer, you know that these for A, B, and D, we didn't even go over or define that word yesterday. So that would not really be a sensible answer. And what's an archipelago? A chain of islands. So lots of islands, like Hawaii is an archipelago, lots of little islands to chain. Which type of natural disaster is common in Japan? And again, I said to be careful. A lot of people often put B for monsoons, and although they do often get monsoons, earthquakes are even more prevalent in Japan because they're along that what? That ring of what? That ring of fire, right? Where all those plates are rubbing against each other and causing these earthquakes, which then causes tsunamis. And that's why Japan is always getting natural disaster relief for tsunamis too. Which method did the Yamato most rely on to build their empires? They actually were really, really smart, and they just had they just had their daughters marry into powerful families. And so you got that family vibe going on. So you want to hook up the other family members with the like, and not like hook up, but like, hey, you're my family, I'll get you a job. So I'm powerful, you're powerful, and we'll just keep the family powerful, that type of thing. All right, so we only have 3 keywords today. Our first word is regent, and this is what I was talking about during the intro about how when someone is unable to rule, someone rules for them. So a regent is just someone who governs a country in the name of a ruler who is unable to rule, and typically in history we see this because of age. The person's not old enough or capable to actually run or rule a country. Then we have the Constitution of 7 Articles. This is Prince Shotoku's moral code for Japan. And there's guiding principles that go on with that to help or guide people in Japan on how to live their lives. Now, I see Constitution and I automatically think of plan for government because we have a Constitution in the United States and that's our laws. That's not what this is. So please don't get the Constitution of the United States idea or concept, which is a plan for government, confused with this. This is just a moral code. So very similar to when we talked about the Arabian Peninsula and Islam, how they have the Sharia, which is their moral code too, their Islamic law. And then reform is just a basic vocab word, but I think it's really important to always use it or know what it means, or review it, which means change. So when something is reform, you change. So if I move my face, for example, something we're dealing with right now in the world is police reform. People are fighting for change in law enforcement to make it more just for everyone. And then these are just some of the key points from Prince Shotoku's constitution. And I'm going to read through them, and I would love, when we're done, for you to pause. And I want you to answer the question, which point do you agree with the most? So which one resonates with you the most, which means you definitely agree with it. You're like, yes, that is completely true. And then I want you to tell me why. So one of the big key points from Shotoku's constitution is that when people behave properly, the government will be in good order. And I'm not going to dive into more what that means because I want you to think about it. When people behave properly, so when people do what they're supposed to do, the government will be in good order. Deal impartially with the legal complaints that are submitted to you. Punish the evil and reward the good. When wise men are entrusted with office, that's a government position. When wise men are entrusted with office, the sound of praise arises. If corrupt, or men that do things they're not supposed to be doing, hold office, disasters multiply. Decisions on important matters should be discussed with many people. So out of these 5 key points from his constitution, which one do you agree with the most and why? So you can go ahead and pause the video and see, I'm curious to see what you think there. All right, so let's get to reading, and we're going to talk about Prince Shotoku and how he unites Japan. Prince Shotoku unites Japan. Even after the Yamato clan gained power, Japan was not fully united. Clan leaders saw little reason to obey a distant government. In 593, Prince Shotoku took power. He was not an emperor. Instead, he was a regent for the empress, his aunt. A regent is someone who governs a country in the name of a ruler who is unable to rule, often because of age. Shotoku began the difficult task of uniting Japan. He had to strengthen the central government and reduce the power of clan leaders. One way he did this was by supporting Buddhism, which arrived from Korea in 538. Shotoku hoped that the new religion would unite the Japanese people. However, clan leaders opposed the new religion because they were also religious leaders. If people stopped worshiping the kami, or the spirit of nature for that clan, the clan leaders would lose importance. So it's kind of very similar to when we talked about Christianity in Rome. Remember, if you remember correctly, Rome originally was polytheistic and had all these different gods. But if you then, sorry, my phone's going off. Um, if you then say there's one God, you're kind of, especially, well, and in the Roman Empire, the emperor was also supposed to be like one of the gods. So if you say that the emperor is not the god anymore, then people are going to stop following the emperor as much. So the same thing happens in Japan. So clan leaders don't like this idea because if people start believing in Buddhism, they're not going to believe in the clan leaders as much, and so they're going to lose importance and they're going to lose influence. That's the word I want. Japanese leaders also learned about Chinese government and the teachings of Confucius. Shotoku studied these. He believed that Confucianism, like Buddhism, could unify Japan. Shotoku's moral code is laid out in a document known as the Constitution of 17 Articles. So I'm going to have you pause the video and I'm going to have you answer these three questions. 1, how did Prince Shotoku come to power? 2, why did Prince Shotoku encourage the spread of Buddhism? And 3, what is the Constitution of 17 Articles? So you can go ahead and pause the video and then we'll come back to check our answers. So go ahead and pause. All right, let me move my face. Number 1, how did Prince Shotoku come? Actually, I'm going to move my face up here because that way I can show you where answers are and where I found them. How did Prince Shotoku come to power? Shotoku served as a regent for the empress who was his aunt. So I can see right here in 593, Prince Shotoku took power. And then I see that he wasn't an emperor, and I see the reason for that. 2, why did Prince Shotoku encourage the spread of Buddhism? He wanted to weaken the power of clan chiefs who were also religious leaders. So that one's a little bit tricky, but that one's going to be in the paragraph support for Buddhism. And I can see here he had to strengthen the central government and reduce the power of clan leaders. One way he did this was by supporting Buddhism. So we know for Buddhism, he could reduce the power of clan leaders, and we know that they were also religious leaders. And then what is the Constitution of 17 Articles? We see here it's Shotoku's moral code. Okay. So you can pause and finish getting that down. I'm tongue-tied today. And then your independent practice, you're going to read more about the articles and its principles, and you're going to answer the following questions. Why is harmony considered important in Shotoku's government? How did the 17 articles reduce the power of clans? So what did they do? And what did the articles or the Constitution of 17 articles want people to respect? Then you have some later reforms. So what are the new laws that came up with the changes? And then what did the reforms make Japan's government more similar to China's or different, and why? And then borrowing from other cultures, how did the official histories or historical writings of China affect Japan? And what evidence in the text shows us that there was early influence of Korea in Japan? And then you are good to go. Again, make sure you fill out the attendance form and check your checklist. Did you restate the question? Did you begin with a capital letter? Did you end with a period? If I read your work, is it going to look like you're sending me a text? If it looks like you're sending me a text, it's not going to get full credit. So make sure you are using academic writing for these questions. But other than that, you guys have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow with more from Japan. Bye, guys.